What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Optimize You, the podcast where we help you transform your health, fitness, nutrition, mindset, identity, and create lasting change in your life. We are pumped for this episode. We got one today coming on the importance of asking for help on your fat loss journey, on your health journey, on whatever journey you're on. And I got with me my co-host, Matt DeJesus. What's going on, Matt?
What's going on, my man? Pumped to be here. I mean, I know I'm just starting out, but I look forward to this every single day because any topics that we're talking about, specifically this one this week too, I get jazzed, man. I get excited for sure. So love to be here.
Me too, man. This is one of my favorite parts of the week as well. Like, I love chatting with you, and we can just go back and forth forever. We've been talking about, even just before we recorded the podcast, we were kind of pre-framing it a little bit. We're like, how are we going to talk about this? Like, let's just record it because we've had too many times where we don't have stuff recorded, and it's like that could have been a whole new podcast. Like, we could have just really recorded one. So we'll get going. But how's your week been, dude?
It's good, man. It's awesome. Just got back from Vegas with the family. First time since I've been there where I'm not actually consuming alcohol, and on that page, I didn't even have an ounce of alcohol. So, and nor do I drink really at all, unless it's a really, really, really special occasion. But yeah, man, it was a good time, good trip. It was about 95, 96 degrees there. And I came back to a nice breezy 65, 70 here in Portland. So, but it was a good trip, man. Went and saw Garth Brooks concert with the family.
Ooh,
so
that'd have been awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome at the Caesars Palace. He has like a residency there. So had some fun, man, for sure. How about you?
Yeah, man. I just been, honestly don't know what I finished a challenge. That's what I did. I was trying to think of what I did this last week. I finished a challenge. So I had a 14-day challenge in my group. And so I've been talking with some people post challenge, but I actually go to Vegas, funny enough, next week. And so head to Vegas. I got a 1 day, just to help some people help me with my business and diving into it. Obviously, NCI, that's where we met, but, we also get to go to a show. So they bring us out to a show, and I don't know what it is. Kind of want it to be a magic show. I've never been to a magic show, but I've always watched. I went through a phase where I watched tons of magic on YouTube and like kind of America's Got Talent people. I just think those people are so interesting. And so I kind of hope selfishly that it's a magic show.
Dude, I love that stuff too. I'm glad you're into that because like I'll dive down a rabbit hole on YouTube and I'll watch that stuff for hours. And then you have the episodes too where like the guys actually show how they do the tricks, and it's like, man, I mean, just it's literally a skill, right? I don't know if you're a fan of David Blaine too, but you watch him, just like the stuff that he does, and then he actually dives in and tells you how he does some of the stuff. Not most of his stuff, but like the ones with the frogs where he was like keeping the frogs in his stomach. I don't know if you saw that one, but
yes, wow,
crazy, yeah.
It's like him and Chris Angel. You got Chris Angel too, Mind Freak, like him. Like they just did like the craziest stuff. Like where his body would like detail, like these illusions that are crazy to me. I don't know how they do them, but like you said, they've done some of those things where they show you. And I don't know if I've ever really watched those. I was like, you know what? I don't really want to know. I keep it under wraps. I'm like, I'm just interested with that stuff, but. I don't know. I think they're just so good at reading, they're so good at like reading people and like influencing people through just the smallest little things that they do, which is crazy.
Totally. Yeah, man. You mentioned you're going to Vegas next week, and it kind of aligns with today's topic. I mean, not kind of, it pretty much is, right? When we're talking about asking for help.
It does. Yeah. No, that's what, let's get into it. And yeah, that's a big thing, right? I think me and you both have talked about how it's been essential for us getting to where we are today, as coaches and starting to build our businesses and really in any area of our lives, asking out for help, getting a coach ourselves in different areas, whether that's the business, whether that's with our health and fitness. I know we struggle both with the same things that everybody else does, but what for you has been like, what ended up getting you to start doing that? Because I know for me personally, it wasn't something that I was comfortable with for the longest period of time.
Yeah, me neither. And so originally for me, I think that I reached a tipping point, and I know that's what it was for me. Like it's basically, I faced so much pain to the point where I was like, I don't have another option. And I don't recommend that for everybody, but that's just my case and my scenario. And I'll be a little bit more specific. I feel like I can do everything on my own. I don't know if you're the same way, but I feel like at least like let me give it an honest try. And more specifically, although I had been coaching in the coaching space for over a decade, transitioning to online, like during the whole COVID thing, I thought was going to be a super easy, smooth transition. Like, oh, this is simple. I got this down. Like, I've been coaching forever. This is going to be an easy, seamless transition, until it wasn't, right? I got punched right in the face and like, oh, this isn't as easy to make money online and turn it into a career, into an actual business as it appears to be. It's a lot more challenging. And I'll kind of tell you what I started to do first was I looked at people who I was a fan of and on social media and had huge followings. And I'm like, man, their program that they charge per month is anywhere from $7 to like $14. $15 was like the highest. Occasionally you'd see one that was like 25. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to create a recurring model and I'm going to do what they do, but I have a fraction of the following that they have. And I didn't understand that. And I'm like, why isn't everybody signing up? I created this awesome program. I dumped so much time into this thing. I created videos for 365 days, workouts, filming myself, like put all this work into it. And I had very little to show for it, which made me go, okay, I fell on my face. I need to ask somebody whether it means to invest. I need to get help, right? I need to somebody who's going to peel back the curtain and like show me the answers. I tried to figure it out on myself, and obviously this is not working. And so, man, if I were to go back and like tell myself if to do one thing to save me a bunch of time and headache and trial and error, don't get me wrong, that has its place too. But I could have saved so much time just by initially just investing into a coach who was already doing it, just to show me how. And the funny thing is the people that I was actually following, some of them and the guys that I was looking up to that I thought were making a lot of money and were well off and successful and being able to do it in health and fitness, which is the ultimate goal. Some of them were actually in our group and our community that we joined, which told me that they didn't know what they were doing from a business standpoint, right? Like they're reaching out for help. They have this huge, massive following. They weren't quite sure how to capitalize off it, which showed that they needed to learn more too. So regardless of the level, that was like eye-opening for me. It was like, wow, like there's these guys at like different guys and girls at different levels who on the surface appear super successful and have it all figured out. But here we are in the same mentorship, in the same community, in the same group, trying to figure these things out together. So, yeah, I had to fall on my face. That was my tipping point, and thinking that I could do it alone, which I'm glad I did because it was a huge learning lesson for me. How about you? What's your story? What allowed you to kind of say, hey, I'm going to put the ego aside here and raise my hand and say, hey, I need help?
Yeah. So I think the first thing for me was with alcohol, actually. Is I had a combination of struggles with my body, with binge eating, with body image, all of these different things, and also an alcohol problem, which enhanced it for me because it was the binge eating was binge drinking and binge eating, right? Like I connected the things, and so it kind of for me started with alcohol and reaching out and starting to do therapy to get help that way, right? I was reaching out to a therapist to help me work through my feelings in a way that would allow me to like start to figure out what's going on in my life. I was so confused with that because I was conflicted, and I had things, journals years back going that was like, I need to quit. Like if this is a problem, like stuff like that. And so it took me talking with somebody and kind of working through some of the things that I was worried about with quitting, just how people would perceive me, how it would change the relationship with my family, with my friends, all that stuff to get help there. And that kind of leads into, so I was in enough pain, basically, just like you. I got into enough pain where I was like, this can't keep going on. Like, I don't know if I'm going to be around too much longer if this keeps going in this direction. Like, I'm mentally just draining myself every week and kind of taking those little steps down in confidence and self-esteem and in just my mental state. And so that was the big first thing. And for on the health and fitness side, it took me starting to learn more about health and nutrition and the science behind it and trying to apply it myself. Because I got into NCI and the educational side of things. And And I was like, okay, like, let's learn about this stuff. Let's start taking some of their courses and start to figure things out and see if I can help myself first, right? Like I was kind of trying to just help myself get into a better place there. And through doing that, I was able to get into a better place with certain things. But there was like the binge eating, the binge and restrict, like for some reason I could not seem to solve that, the body image issues and some other things that whatever I tried, I just could not seem to fix it myself. And so that's when I reached out to a coach, just because I was trying to be a coach and kind of starting to slowly coach some people myself. Just they can make us get some guinea pigs for NCI to actually apply the education they give us. And so I was like, okay, I know a little bit about this coaching thing. Like clearly I can't do this on my own. I need some help. And it was me getting help for myself as like, just, I need to feel better. I need to be able to get into a better place here. But it was also me like trying to also learn a little bit more about coaching and how a good coach operates and how I could use some of the things that he was giving me to help people that I was working with or that who I would work with in the future.
Yeah. So it sounds very similar to obviously totally different scenarios, but I think the underlying commonality there is we were both in a position of pain, both in a position of, man, I'm going to seek somebody external from myself, somebody, a different point of view. Maybe they have something else to show for, because I've been trying to do it myself and I really have nothing to show for it, or I don't have much to show for it. So interesting, man. What was it for you that, because I don't know if you had these feelings too. This is the first thing that comes to mind when you told your story and your scenario is, did you have any resistance, asking for help? Meaning like, where you're like, I can do it on my own, or were you in a position of maybe the ego is coming in a little bit like, oh, I don't need somebody else to help me. Or, did you feel any of those, imposter syndrome, any of those things, any of those feelings of inadequacy before leading up to asking for help?
Yeah, good question for sure. I think it took me a lot longer to ask for help than I would have liked it to. It took me years and years of struggle to get to the point of actually asking for help. And I didn't even know what coaching really was until I found NCI, which
Me too.
allowed me to ask for help though. Like me even figuring out that was a career path, because I was always really, I loved health and fitness, and I really started to get more passion for it through college when we had more structured training and more, an actual strength coach and stuff like that, where you kind of start to get that. And then in the pros, where like it was more of like a top of mind thing. They gave us a little bit better food, and there's a little bit more structure there in certain aspects as well. And so that was the big thing, is that it really took me a long time and a lot of trial and error. I think it took me to the point of like, I don't know what else to do, right? Like, it's like, I can't solve this on my own. I've tried everything that I know. I've researched things. I was just stuck, and I was like, you know what? The only next logical thing for me to do is to try to get somebody to help me here, because I don't know what else to do. And I think that kind of goes back to, I'll talk to plenty of people where it's like they feel like they're putting in so much effort and the results just aren't coming. And that's where it was for me, is like I was putting in all of this effort, trying new things. Now, mind you, I also had the mindset of like instant gratification at the time, and I still do struggle with that sometimes, like just constantly getting that instant gratification. And it just took me to where I was like, you know what, like something needs to change here. I'm putting in way too much effort to not see anything move in the right direction with these things. And so luckily I was able to reach out, and they basically sold me before the call. Like it was one of those things where I was like, I already knew about this company that I was getting involved in. Like I knew that they were a great company. I knew that they got great results for their clients. And I was like, just tell me the price and let's get this going, because I need help, right? Like that was kind of where I was at.
For sure. And it reminds me of like our businesses from a personal standpoint as well, right? Like if somebody's actually raising their hand and saying, I want this help, hopefully they have been in our ecosystem. Hopefully they've been listening to the information that we've been providing and giving value, whether it's through the podcast, whether it's through a social media post, whether it's through other people's testimonials, where they can just kind of eavesdrop and look from the outside in and just go, oh man, like these people actually are getting results. They're actually crushing it. And then to go back to your scenario where you're like, okay, just let me know how much it is. Like I'm ready to do this. Like I just need to know the price. Let's figure it out how I can. And that's a huge difference too. Like that's the difference between like, oh, let me see if it's a matter of whether I want to do this or not, like you were already like, I'm in, I need help. Like I'm raising my hand. It was more so a fact of like, let me know how much it is so that I can figure out how to pay for it, how to make it happen, because I'm admitting here that I need this help. And I think that's huge, man. I think a lot of people are, if they're on the fence about it, they're kind of like not quite admitting that they need the help yet. So it's more so an issue of them asking, or a contradictory of, do I actually want to do this, or do I actually need the help? Or am I just kind of like testing the waters and like dipping my toe in to see if, maybe everything that this person says might convince me. Right. And if they're in a position to like try to be convinced, including ourselves, I think that means that we haven't quite made that decision yet. Right. And either we're, not in enough pain yet. Hopefully it doesn't have to get to that point, or we're just not quite convinced ourselves that we actually need help sometimes.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's a great point. And do you think, like, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, just with change, and we're adding in the podcast of just change and being able to create lasting change in your life. So I've been thinking a lot more on change. And what's your thoughts on hitting rock bottom to actually ask for help and actually create change in your life? Because I feel like it's almost come to that point with a lot of people where like people feel like they have to hit this rock bottom to actually move in the other direction and start making changes and start asking for that help to get them out of that. And I know that was my scenario with alcohol, is hitting that rock bottom and realizing that, like, you know what, like if I keep going down this path, like I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I know it's not going to be good. Right. But if so that was what it took me. But what is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think honestly, on the surface, it sounds like something that's shitty to do, right? Or shitty to happen to us. But also when it does happen to you, you also figure out new levels and new capabilities that you never knew or imagined that you were capable of. I know that's the reality for me, is when your back gets so pushed up against the wall and you don't have another option, you don't have another out. Like you can't just go rely on your parents, or you can't just like rely on this, this huge amount of income that was passed down from generations to you. Like that wasn't my case, right? Like that, I didn't have that as a luxury. So when I was making the transition, like when you get pushed against the wall and then have to invest, not have to, but I'm choosing to invest into something that I don't have financially, but I'm going to figure out a way to do it. Like that feeling inside, it still puts like a knot in my stomach, to the point where, like, I'll be totally transparent. Over the last year, I've invested over $50,000 in me in coaching. And so if I were to think about that, like, and go back just 2 to 3 years before I was able to invest in myself, like that number, like I don't even own a car that's that much, or like, I've never made that kind of investment in anything. And so my back was against the wall to invest money that I didn't have, because I'm in this position of pain and want more for myself. Dude, I figured out who I was and what I was made of quick. And anybody who puts themselves in that kind of position where your back's up against the wall, like, I know it sounds scary, and it is, and it like, you're going to have these thoughts in your head of like, what if it doesn't work out? But it forces you to shift your mindset to, what if this does work out? Like, what are the opportunities here? I want to see what I'm capable of. And you can truly see like a different version of you step forward, or not, right? Like that person could totally collapse and cave in too. But guess what? Here's the deal. And I tell this to people too, like when on conversations with potential leads, is like, what's the worst case that's going to happen? Like, let's say you invest some money. Let's say you don't get results. Are you going to go broke? Like, are you going to be homeless? Are you going to go bankrupt? Like, and even if all those things are true, then what? You're still in the same position you're in now. And I had to look at it from that view, from that lens, and go, okay, what if all this doesn't work out? Like, I'm still going to be in a position financially where I'm broke. My back's still against the wall, right? Like I'm still going to be here. So you might as well put your best foot forward and like make it work for yourself and figure out what you're made of. Because what's the worst that's going to happen, right? You're going to fall back and start right where you're at again. It's like, okay, at some point you're going to have to restart again. So I think it's a huge opportunity. And that's the way I think I would encourage people to look at it, versus just going, oh, this is scary. Oh, I don't think I'm capable. Oh, I'm afraid, right? And you feel those feelings of fear. I'm a big fan of feel the fear and act anyways, like have courage. And when you can do that, man, you'll figure out what you're made of. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts of like just starting from rock bottom, from starting from nothing, starting from your back up against the wall? Like, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I think that when it comes to that rock bottom, And that's a huge reason why I'm so excited about this new podcast as well that we're adding to the repertoires, because I'm curious about how I can help and how we can, as a podcast, help other people not have to hit that rock bottom, right? And
Mm,
be able to change from any area. Because I've had a lot of struggle with that in my life, like making changes from a place of like already in a decent spot, right? Like it's like it can be very difficult when you're already like pretty comfortable and you're already like, you know what, things are actually pretty good, to make the changes that you know you need to make to actually get to the next level. And so that's why I've been so adamant about like getting coaching in every area of my life. I mean, you said you spent $50,000 in the last year on coaching with yourself and investing in yourself, which is the sign of a good coach. Everybody, like you, if you are wondering like people to reach out to, right? It's people like Matt, who is investing in himself on a, not even necessarily all on the coaching side, right? Like I'm sure, you know, business guide, you're probably getting coaching on different areas, things that you think are weak spots, you get a coach, right? That's what we do, even if it's a little bit tough financially for us, because we know that the trade-off is us getting better. And I think that for a lot of people, it comes down to ourself, right? Like we're generally our biggest roadblock is ourself. I know for me, that's what I'm on right now, is a journey of myself, really overcoming myself and getting into the best relationship with myself. Because I know if I can fully love myself, accept myself, and get into the best relationship with myself, then I can fully help and impact everybody else. And that is what I'm after, and why I spend so much money on myself and shifting my identity and getting different types of coaching in my life, from the NLP coaching to having a health and fitness, a nutrition coach myself, to just trying different type of programs to figure out how can I get myself better, but also how can I use this to help other people, from the people that are listening to our podcast, to my clients, to the people in my group, to the people who just watch my videos on social media. So I do not think that you need to get to a rock bottom to change, but it does take a big shift to change and to ask for help, because you got to understand, and generally people have to try enough things, right? Like um, I would say try it for yourself first, right? Don't just, you can just ask for help right away, but like I think sometimes it's beneficial to give it a shot and to try a few different things on your own, to see the lay of the land and to get a little bit of a base under your feet, because you can generally make some progress that way. But if you're completely lost and you don't know the next step, reach out, right? Like reach out, and people like Matt and myself are more than willing to even just help you out and give you like the first steps to do it, right? Like we don't even expect you, like you don't need to like just reach out. If you're gonna, like, we're not gonna not talk to you, right? If you come to us and like, hey,
yeah.
oh nope, you're not interested in coaching, no, it's like we'll give you the first steps. Like we want to, if you don't need coaching, like some people just need the tips, right? I know like some people just kind of need the tips. I know for me, like in a lot of the areas, it's taken me to get coaching to fix it fully and to get into a better place. But some people just need the tips. I've had that plenty of times where I have a call with somebody or have a conversation in the DMs with somebody, and I give them a few little simple things, and then all of a sudden, like, they reach out to me like a few months later and they're like, this is amazing. Like I'm feeling so much better. I've gotten to a better place here. And like, that's what it's all about. It's just like understanding that there's a lot of awesome coaches out there who are willing to help and want to help you in whatever respect they can. But then there's also plenty of people out there that are just looking to take your money.
Mm.
And what would you say on that side of things, Matt, as far as like how to vet out a good coach and how to ask for help in the right places?
Totally. I think we as a society and just as a human race, we're very good. And one of our innate features is being able to sniff out bullshit, like being able to sniff out whether somebody's trying to sell you in something. And that's why we have our own Facebook groups, right? And it's not to sell something, it's to provide as much value as possible. And I know if you go into Alex's group or my group, you guys are going to get literally every single resource that you would need in order to be able to have success. Whether you apply those or not, or whether you need external accountability is totally based on the individual. But as far as resources alone, I know I can dive into Alex's group. I guarantee you he's going to have structure. He's going to have something along, whether it's protein, whether it's recipes, whether it's, workout plans, whatever it is, there's enough free information in his group that I could go. And if I truly applied it myself, I could get to where I want to go. So with that being said, if I'm looking for a coach and I'm standing in a client or potential client's foot or feet, like their shoes, and I'm looking for a coach, I'm going, who provides the best high quality resources that actually yield and get results? And if I can do that, and if I can try and apply it on my own, then I could start to see some rhythm. I could start to see some momentum. I could start to at least see glimpses of progression, just like how Alex and I hold free challenges, right? Jump in a free challenge. If you guys are skeptical at all, like, and you need help and you're just kind of not sure yet, like, we have free challenges. That's why we put them on. We're trying to deliver as much value as we possibly can. Now, from a business standpoint, there is going to be a handful of you that go through something like that and then continue to raise your hand to say, yes, that was awesome. That was phenomenal. I want to take it to the next step. And that's when we provide coaching, right? So it's not for everybody. And we're not trying to convince everybody. Matter of fact, we're not trying to convince anybody. At least I know I'm not. And I'm sure Alex isn't either. It's a matter of the people who actually really, truly raise their hand after the first initial steps and stages and say, hey, this was great. This obviously proved to me that this works. And this has given me solid foundation. I'm ready to take it to another level. And then those people are the ones that we provide paid services for. So again, if you're just somebody who can take the free resources and apply them, I actually want you to do that, because then I can brag about you, right? From a business perspective, I can say, hey, so-and-so, Tyler took all the information from the challenge. He was able to lose 20 pounds. He put on 5 pounds of muscle, right? He's living a healthier lifestyle. He has higher energy levels to be able to play with his kids. Those are the stories that I want to share. And I'll say, hey, by the way, he didn't pay me a dime. He came and he did that, and he joined the free challenge, and he continued the habits after that. And look how successful he is, right? So for me, from a coaching perspective, like, those are the stories I want to share so that more people come in and they go, oh, there's actually true value here. I can better myself through getting this help, through admitting that I need some help. And so that's why I think it's a huge benefit. Like, we're not trying to sell everybody. And if we were, we wouldn't have, enough spaces anyways, right? To be able to, so I know Alex is the same way about this in terms of being able to provide quality to each individual who joins and comes on our actual programs. Like, if we spread ourselves thin and just took on everybody, we wouldn't be able to deliver the high quality caliber service that we know we're capable of doing, right? If we're spreading ourselves thin, or we'd have to hire a bunch of coaches and then go train them. And, it's a whole nother conversation. It's a different process, but yeah, man, I think that's my insight on that. I'd be curious to see how you feel about it.
Yeah. I think you said a lot of great stuff. I think that's amazing. Just as far as, yeah, we do provide these free groups where there's a lot of awesome stuff. I know I've been in your group. You got a ton of amazing things you're constantly posting, videos, live training, stuff like that, just like I am as well. And yeah, you could come into either of our groups, and if you knew how to apply this stuff, be able to see amazing results with those things we have in there for free. But I think that's where the coaching does come into play, right? Is that plenty of people can try things and see results, but it's the application and the adjustments that really make the asking for help piece a lot more beneficial. Because I know a lot of people get stuck in the dieting all year round, right? Like, they've constantly been pushed this lower calories, more exercise, less food, all of these different things out there. And I think that the misinformation and the overload of information out there can make trying to achieve your health and fitness goals super difficult for so many people, and really knowing, okay, where do I actually reach out, right? And so, like, I think that what you said is awesome, just like kind of being able to get into some of these free groups and see how you connect with the person who's running the group, like the Matt, the Alex in these groups. Like, how do you connect with them? Like, do you have a good vibe with them? Do they seem to be like actually trying to help? Like, do they have a lot of value? Like, are they giving away all their secrets, right? Like, because I think that's the big thing is, like, if people are constantly holding back, something's maybe going on a little bit, I would say. Because none of the stuff that we talk about on this podcast or in our groups are not things that you couldn't Google yourself and find, right? Like, we've just been, we've done research. We've been in courses that have helped us with these things. And so, just kind of take the value of it. Like, are they giving you tons and tons of value? Well, guess what? If they're giving you tons and tons of value in this free group, their program is probably going to be pretty fucking good and have a lot of value, right? Like, it's right. Like, you kind of get that, but also the side of, like, do you vibe with this person? Because if you don't have a good relationship with somebody, it's going to be weird, right? It's going to be like kind of just, there's going to be resistance. It's going to be like you're probably not going to get the best results. But if you are in there long enough and you have enough conversations with Matt to figure out that you got a really good relationship with Matt, then, maybe it's time to hop on a call with him and figure out a little bit more about his program and how he can help you in a greater capacity. Because the thing about coaching is I think that Hormozi says this, and I've definitely said this on a podcast before, like buying other people's mistakes. And that is what you're doing with coaching and asking for help, is you're buying, like taking the guesswork out of it. You're buying mine and Matt's mistakes of what we've gone through, and you're buying like not having to stay in that pain anymore, right? Like, cause we, like for my thing, like working on mindset, working on identity, working on body image, binge eating stuff. Like I've been through all that stuff, right? And I'm still going through some of it. Like I'm still going through it. And so like, it's me taking what I've learned throughout that to help you not have to continue going through those big struggles that you're going through. And that's the same thing with Matt. So you're literally buying other people's mistakes. You're taking all of the guesswork out of the plan. And that's not to say there's not going to be resistance throughout and that it's not going to be difficult, because change is always difficult. Like it's always going to be difficult when you start to do things that are a little bit uncomfortable. But that's where the true growth happens, is getting out of your comfort zone, being willing to ask people, being willing to try new things. And you start to see these amazing results happen.
Dude, I love that. That's awesome. And I want to go back to that relationship piece that you were talking about too, because you'll figure out just by doing somebody's free resources or free course or whatever it is, it's a great opportunity, especially if you're not quite sure yet. Let's just say hypothetically, you're not in a deep enough pain where you're like, show me where to sign up, right? Like we all know Alex and I have both been in that position where it's like, just tell me how much, I'm ready to sign up. Like I'm ready to join. Maybe you're not in that position. Maybe you're not quite raising your hand for help yet. You're just you're like, I'm struggling a little bit on myself, but I maybe have the potential to figure this out on my own. I'm not quite sure yet. Let's just say hypothetically you're sitting on the fence. I think what you said about relationships is super key, because look at the head of whatever it is that you're potentially going to join or potentially you're going to invest in, and ask yourself, do I vibe with this person? Is this person somebody who speaks to me, who gets me? Is this somebody who I respect? Is this somebody who I trust? We always talk about know, like, and trust. We always try to get our audiences to know, like, and trust us, because at the end of the day, if they don't, what are the chances of them trusting in us as a coach to be able to take them to another level? It's going to be very minimal. It's very hard. So I think the thing that you said about relationships is crucial, man, because I know for me, when it was my choice to decide what coach was going to take me on from a business standpoint, I'll be real, I tested out a lot of them. Like I went and did like their free stuff that they offered. The reason I chose to go with our coach that we went with was because I already felt like I knew him from listening to him on podcasts. I trusted him based on his education level and the information that he was providing, because I was like, man, I haven't really heard those things before, nor have I heard it from that kind of viewpoint or perspective, and the amount of success that he had with the people that he was already working with. Like, I felt like before I even signed up, it was more like, I know him. I feel like I know him. I never personally met him yet. I know him, I like him, and I absolutely trust him. And when I could like check those 3 boxes off, for me, it was a no-brainer. It was very similar to what you said. It was just like, just tell me how much, because I'm ready to do this. And when you put yourself in that position, I think once you find and you can create that relationship with the person that you're looking to invest in potentially, or just even learn from, I think it makes a world of a difference.
Yeah. And you said like, almost like that vulnerability piece of like being vulnerable enough to share. Like you got to hear their story, right? Like if you don't vibe with their story and you don't relate with their story, then maybe that's not the right fit for you. But if it is something, it's like, oh, they've gone through the same struggles that I've gone through. Like they've got to the other side. They've helped other people with this. They've done this. Like, then it's like, okay, like you said, the know, like, trust, boom, let's get going here. Like, are you in enough pain? Like, do you want to try a free challenge? Do you want to, just hop on a call, like a strategy call, to figure out what type of things would be best for you? Like, I know we both do stuff like that. And that's to make sure that people, if they are going to come on, that they kind of know what they're getting into, right? Like, because we try to run those things like we run our programs in some respect. I know it's tough to run like a 14-day, 21-day, 28-day challenge and have it mimic your program, but I know we both, I'm assuming you do as well, like touch on different aspects that we do with our actual clients as well. And so I love everything about that, man. I think this is that's really good stuff. Is there anything else you leave the audience with when it comes to just asking for help and kind of getting into that spot?
Yeah, I would say like we talked about before, don't wait for it to get so painful that you're like, okay, now I'm going to take action. I'm a huge fan of ready, fire, aim, right? Like just take action. Even if your gut tells you, if you have an intuition that you can potentially be better, you want to see what you're capable of more. And you have the willingness to kind of put the ego aside. It has nothing to do with that for you personally. And you're like, hey, I can do this. I'm just afraid, or I feel the fear. That's actually the perfect signal that you need to take that step forward. And it doesn't have to be in health and fitness. That would be my recommendation for anybody, if they were addicted to anything, right? Alcohol, drugs, whatever. If their gut or their intuition was like, man, I want to make change. I'm just not sure how to go about doing it. I'm scared of change. I'm not sure who to trust. I'm not sure what direction to go. Just the fact that it's even on your mind is enough for me, in my eyes, to actually pull the trigger and take action. I don't think you need this huge glaring signal or sign to be like, all the stars need to be aligned and the timing needs to be perfect in order for me to raise my hand and say I need help. That's never going to be the case. If you wait until that point, you might regret waiting that long, because you could have saved so much more time. And like you said, the process becomes streamlined when you actually admit and like say, hey, I actually need this help. I don't need to get to a breaking point to raise my hand and say, hey, I need some help here. What would be your advice to people who are either on the fence, or anything else that would just help them in general to kind of take that next step if they truly are asking or in need of help?
What comes to mind with me is just try to take it down the worst case scenario, right? Like this can be, I think, a good, because we both talked about pain. We both got into a lot of pain to get to the point of asking for help, right? Which you don't need to get in a lot of pain, right? Like you can get into some pain and ask for help. But what if once you got into some pain, you took that down the worst case scenario route, right? You're like, what's the worst case scenario if I keep going in this direction? Like what happens? What could potentially happen? And you might find that you don't want to go down that direction. And you could save yourself a year of keep continuing to go down until you hit that rock bottom by just diving down the worst case scenario route and just figuring out, oh shit, like that sounds terrible. Why don't I figure out how I can start going in this other direction right away? And that could lead you to asking for help. It could lead you to just trying some new things. It could lead you to a challenge, a free thing, whatever it is. But if you can try that out and think about those and try to attach as much pain to the potential of what could happen if you keep going down this route, I think that's a big thing for people taking the next step.
I love that, dude. That's very well said, because by doing that, taking yourself to either side of the spectrum, you now have contrast. You now have something to compare it to. What's the cost of inaction? What's the cost of action? All right, let's look at the benefits of doing this. Let's look at the benefits of continuing down the same road and take it all the way to extremes. And you will be able to paint this beautiful picture inside your head that'll allow you to make a better decision and a better choice for yourself. And it'll kind of nudge you in the right direction, because now you have seen best case scenario and worst case scenario and where you're at on that spectrum and how much you're willing to tolerate. I think tolerance is a huge word too. And this whole thing is like, what's your ability and willingness to tolerate? Am I willing to tolerate what I'm currently doing? If I were to extend my time horizon out another 5 years, would I be happy with the lifestyle and current situation that I'm at? And if the answer is no, it's like, well, there's your answer. But if you haven't take that out, which I think a lot of people just have, they're like racehorses, right? They have their blinders on. They're just focused on today, which, by the way, being present and in the moment is phenomenal. But having the ability to look out, extend your time horizon 5 years ahead of time and ask yourself those questions, I think it'll paint a beautiful picture for you to be able to make a decision.
I love it. Couldn't have said it better myself. And I think that one thing that a lot of people that I've figured out is that like people run a lot more tend to run away from pain than run to pleasure. Right. So I think that's why I talked about the pain, accelerating that pain and getting into that deeper pain a little bit quicker, because you're going to save yourself a lot of time. And that's the key with coaching, right? Saving yourself time, getting into a better place in a quicker spot, and really just for a lot of you feeling better, and or whatever you are, if you're life coaching, if you're trying to quit something, if you're trying to do anything, it's so key to just ask for help if you haven't been able to figure it out on your own. So with that, dude, good pod.
Oh yeah, man. Another fire one. Love it.
Hopefully this is valuable for everybody. Thank you so much for taking some time to watch, listen. As always, make sure if this was helpful, you like, comment, subscribe, rate us, whatever you got to do to help us get this out to more people and impact some more lives. We appreciate you. And Matt, thanks as always, dude.
Thanks, brother. Can't wait for the next one.
Hell yeah. Looking forward to it.